East Baton Rouge Parish. I'm Anita Harlow, an EL instructional coach. And in this presentation, I will be discussing English language proficiency tests with a focus on writing. The ESL department vision and mission is for English learners achieving English proficiency and college and career readiness. The East Baton Rouge Parish School System's English as a Second Language program improves the English language proficiency and academic achievement of English learners through an effective language instructional educational program, high quality professional development, parent and family engagement, and a continuous program improvement. So let's look a little bit at English language proficiency test guidance. The English language proficiency test, otherwise known as ELP, is given to all students that are identified as English learners. The test is an untimed online test that measures a student's English proficiency in the four language domains: reading, writing, speaking, and listening. The testing window for 2023 is February 13th through March 24th. Our Mardi Gras breaks fall in between that date on February 20th through 22nd. Some general things to know about the ELP is that it's an online test and is administered by a trained administrator using the test administration manual. The approximate times to complete the test are as follows. Kindergarten and first grade will be 40 to 60 minutes. Second and third grade between 60 and 90 minutes. Fourth and fifth grade between 60 to 100 minutes. Sixth through eighth grade 80 to 140 minutes, and ninth through 12th grade, 80 to 150 minutes. The test is divided in grade bands. There's a test just for kindergartners, and there's a test just for first grade. Second and third grade is the same test in a grade band, so it's fourth and fifth, sixth through eighth, and our high schoolers, ninth through 12th. So let's look at our trajectory charts for this test. When an English learner takes the English language proficiency test for the first time, they are establishing their baseline. Then we could use the chart to map out where they need to be to reach proficiency. So the first time they take it, if they score at emergent E, that means they received a score of 1 or 2 in all 4 domains: speaking, reading, listening, and writing. If their score is progressing 1, or we call it a P1, then the highest domain scored is a 3 or higher, and the lowest score is 1. If it's progressing 2 or P2, the highest domain scored is a 3 or higher, and the lowest score is a 2. If they score at progressing 3, P3, the highest domain is a 3 or higher, and the lowest is a 3. If they score all 4s and 5s in all 4 domains, then they're considered transitioning and they're exited out of the program. Now, let's look at the trajectory tables for elementary and secondary. So if they come in initially as emergent, then the following year they're expected to be at least a P1, the third year a P2, and the fourth year a P3. So by the fifth year, they're transitioned out. Some students do come to us higher at a P2 or P3, and they have a shorter period of time before they're considered transitioned out. For secondary, they have a little bit more time. If they come in at emergent, then the next year they're expected to be at least a P1. But if you note, in year 3 and 4, they're allowed to be at the same level at P2. And if you look at year 5 and 6, they're allowed to be at the same level at P3, but by year 7, they should transition out. Again, if they come to us a very high as a P3, then the next year they're allowed to continue to be a P3. In the third year, they should be transitioned out. We feel at the ESL department with proper supports and accommodations and strategies, most of our students can transition out within 3 to 4 years. Okay, so how does this affect your school? Well, if a student exceeds their expected proficiency level, then the school is awarded 150 points for that student. For example, if they come in as emergent and they're expected to be at a P1, but instead they score at a P2 or P3, that is exceeding their proficiency level, and therefore you get 150 points. If they meet their expected proficiency level, if they were emergent and they were supposed to be P1 the following year, and that's what they achieve, that's 100 points. Improvement of one or more English proficiency levels from their prior year, they will receive 80 points. And if they have no improvement in overall English proficiency, then it's a zero. So if they emergent the first year, the second year, the third year, that's a zero. And that's what we would like to avoid. So for the rest of the presentation, I'm going to focus on writing, and this is the why. If you notice, our spring 2022 ELP results show that writing is the lowest scoring domain. The first set of graphs show elementary, and you can see writing is the lowest scoring domain. In our middle school, again, writing is the lowest scoring domain, as well as high school. So, how can we improve this? Well, one way we could improve it is to actually understand the writing rubrics that the students will be scored and help them to work toward that level. For kindergarten writing, if they're writing an opinion or getting scored on writing a sentence, to get the highest possible points, which would be 3, the grammar and word choice are largely accurate. The words may be spelled phonetically, but when read aloud, the meaning of the response is clear. The response indicates a choice and supports the opinion with the rationale. In kindergarten, if they're being scored on writing a word, they get the highest possible points. All consonant sounds in the word are represented in the correct order. Letters may be uppercase, lowercase, or reverse. For writing, copy a word. Here again in kindergarten, it says all letters are copied legibly and in the correct order. No letters are reverse. And over here, the chosen letter demonstrates an awareness of phonics. Letters may be uppercase, lowercase, or reverse. And that's we're only focusing on the highest score possible. For first grade, looking at the rubrics for writing a word to get the highest possible score, all consonants and vowel sounds in the word are represented with the correct letters in the correct order. Letters may be uppercase, lowercase, or reverse. For being scored with writing, copy a word, all letters are copied legibly and in the correct order. No letters are reverse. And to get the highest possible score for writing a sentence, the grammar and the word choice are largely accurate. Though many words in the response are spelled conventionally, challenging or infrequent words may be spelled phonetically, and the response is consistent with the picture. When being scored for writing a storyboard, they get the highest possible score of a 4. The response contains vocabulary and sentence structure, simple and compound, that are appropriate. Word choice and grammar are fairly accurate, but the response may contain a few noticeable errors that do not interfere with meaning. Many words in a response are spelled correctly. Challenging or infrequent words may be spelled phonetically. The student successfully responds to the topic and task by composing a narrative that recounts a coherent sequence of events. The response is organized and uses temporal words and conjunctions to connect events in sequence. So here are some examples of some lower grade writing. Here on the first one, it says move the letter to complete the word. Then the student will click the arrow at the bottom. It'll say the word. Then the student has to choose the correct letter and drag it into the box. Looking across, another writing task for the lower grades where it says move the words to make the sentence. Then they will click the arrow. It will read the sentence to them correctly. Students can click this as many times as they need to hear it. And then they will physically move the words down to the blanks. At the bottom, again, they will have to actually put a word in the sentence by spelling it out, and they can hear the sentence read to them as often as they need. Okay, for our second and third grade writing, the rubric for writing no opinion, in order to get the highest score of a 4, the response contains the appropriate vocabulary and sentence structure, simple and compound, word choice and grammar are generally accurate, but the response may contain a few noticeable errors that do not interfere with meaning. The student successfully presents an opinion supported by well-developed information and reasons. The response is organized and uses linking words and phrases to connect ideas. To get the highest possible score for writing a picture caption, which is a score of 3 on this task, the grammar and the word choice are largely accurate. The response may contain isolated errors and typos that do not interfere with meaning, and the response is consistent with the picture. For the task of writing of a storyboard, to get the highest possible score of 4 for this task, the response should contain vocabulary and sentence structure that are appropriate to the picture. The word choice and grammar are fairly accurate. The response could contain a few noticeable errors that do not interfere with meaning. The student successfully responds to the topic and task by composing the narrative that recounts a coherent sequence of events. The response is organized and use transitional and temporal words to connect events in sequence. Okay, here's an example of a writing task for grade bands 2-3, where the students are instructed to write a sentence that describes what they see, and they could use the words from the word bank. Here, the student has to compose the whole sentence, and they're looking at grammar, spelling, punctuation. For grade bands 4-5, for the task of writing no opinion to get the highest possible score of a 4, the response contains vocabulary and sentence structure, simple, compound, and some complex, that are appropriate. Word choice and grammar are generally accurate, but the response may contain a few noticeable errors that do not interfere with meaning. The student must successfully respond to the topic and task by presenting an opinion supported by well-developed information and reasons. The response is organized and uses linking words and phrases to connect ideas. For the writing task of writing a question to get the highest possible score of 3, the grammar and the word choice are largely accurate. The response may contain isolated errors and typos that do not interfere with meaning, and the response successfully addresses the prompt and is consistent with the stimulus. For the fourth, fifth grade band writing storyboard task to get the highest possible score of a 5, the response contains a variety of syntactic structures, such as simple, compound, and complex sentences, and vocabulary that are appropriate to the picture. Word choice and grammar are effective and accurate, though the response may contain a few minor and isolated errors that do not interfere with meaning. The student addresses the topic and task very well by composing a narrative that is coherent and well developed, using relevant information and specific details. The response again is well organized, use a variety of transitional words and phrases to connect events and ideas in a logical sequence. And a student's message must easily be understood on a first reading. So look at your students' writing, see where they fall on this rubric to know how to push them to the highest possible score. Here's an example of a fourth, fifth grade writing task where they have to listen to an announcement from a principal. They'll hear the announcement being read, and then they're asked to write questions that are pertinent to the announcement to the visitor. So they have to know question words and how to phrase it accordingly. For our middle school, grade bands 6 through 8, to get the highest possible score for the task of construct a claim, their writing must include a response that contains a variety of syntactic structures, such as simple, compound, and complex sentences, and vocabulary that are appropriate or higher. Word choice and grammar are effective and accurate, though the response may contain a few minor and isolated errors that do not interfere with the meaning. It must address the topic and task, developing an opinion and supporting it effectively with compelling reasons and examples. The response is coherent, demonstrating organization and effective use of a variety of transitional words and phrases to connect ideas. Again, the student message must be easily understood on a first reading. To get the highest possible score on the writing task, respond to a peer email. The response contains vocabulary and simple, compound, and complex sentence structures that are appropriate. Word choice and grammar are accurate, though the response could have a few errors that do not obscure the student's meaning. It must be successfully addressing the topic and task by stating an opinion and supporting it effectively with at least two sufficient reasons. They can have more. It's organized. It has transition words and phrases that are used appropriately. For the writing task of writing questions to get the highest possible score, the grammar and word choice are largely accurate. The response may contain isolated errors and typos that do not interfere with meaning. The response successfully addresses the prompt and is consistent with the stimulus. For the task of writing storyboard to get the highest possible score of 5, the response contains a variety of syntactic structures, such as simple, compound, and complex sentences. The vocabulary is appropriate to the pictures. The word choice and grammar are effective and accurate. They can have a few minor errors that do not interfere with the meaning. It must address the topic and task very well by composing a narrative that is coherent and well developed. Use relevant information and specific details. It's well organized. Use transition words and phrases to connect events and ideas in a logical sequence. And again, the message must be easily understood on a first reading. Okay, here are some examples of writing where it says, look at the picture and write a paragraph about what is happening. Be sure to include details that happen before and after the event in the picture. Right here, I normally teach the students how what I call sweep the picture, where they will start on one side and start writing about it and talking about it and go all the way across till they have a complete paragraph. They have to tell a story from beginning to end. They have to organize their ideas in a logical way, and they have to use the right style for the writing task and the audience. Here's another example of a writing task. This is one about an email. So they have to read the email and then respond to the email appropriately, give a suggestion, organize ideas in a way that's logical, and use the right style for the task and the audience. Okay, our last grade band is our high schoolers. So to get the highest possible score for writing, construct a claim. The response contains a variety of syntactic structures, such as simple, compound, and complex sentences, and vocabulary that are appropriate or higher. Word choice and grammar are effective and accurate. They can have a few minor and isolated errors that do not interfere with meaning. The student addressed the topic and task very well, developing an opinion and supporting it effectively with compelling reasons and examples. The response is coherent, it is organized. There are a variety of transitional words and phrases to connect ideas. And again, it must be easily understood on a first reading. To get the highest possible score on the task of respond to a peer email, the response contains vocabulary and simple, compound, and complex sentence structures that are appropriate. Word choice and grammar are accurate. It could have a few errors that do not obscure the student's meaning. It must successfully address the topic and task by stating an opinion and supporting it effectively with at least two sufficient reasons. Again, they can have more. It's organized and clear. They have transition words and phrases, and they're used appropriately. For the task of writing questions to get the highest possible score, the grammar and word choice are largely accurate. Again, it could have a few errors and typos that do not interfere with the meaning, and the response successfully addresses the prompt and is consistent with the stimulus. And the last one, writing for storyboard tasks to get the highest possible score. The response contains a variety of syntactic structures, such as simple, compound, and complex sentences, and vocabulary that are appropriate and relevant. Word choice and grammar are effective and accurate. Again, they can have few and minor isolated errors that do not interfere with meaning. It addresses the topic and task very well by composing a narrative that is coherent and well developed, using relevant information and specific details relevant to the reading stimulus. It's well organized. There are a variety of transitional words and phrases to connect ideas and events, and it's logically sequenced. And again, it must be easily understood on the first reading. Okay, here are some examples of writing at the high school level. This is one where the students would have to read, and then they would have a drop down box, and they have a list of words to choose from to fit the sentence. And they continue to the next one, and they have to choose the correct word. To practice this in their daily lessons, you could use a closed type of reading and provide students with extra words and see if they could choose the correct one. They get used to seeing that type of work in their daily class assignments, then it would not be very difficult for them to do this on the test. Here's another one where it says some math tests allow students to use calculators, others do not. Write a paragraph to explain to your math teacher your opinion about using calculators on math tests. Support your opinion with your own experience. So here they have to understand the prompt. They have to understand how to write an opinion and how to back it up. It should be clearly expressed. They should have examples. It should be organized. And they should use the right style for the task and audience. Okay, that concludes this presentation on ELP with a focus on writing. A reminder, our testing window for 2023, it's February 13th through March 24th. Mardi Gras is in between there from the 20th to the 22nd. Here's our contact information. So at any time, if you have any questions or would like some extra support, please feel free to contact us. Thank you and have a great day.